Picture yourself standing in a room that is completely black. There's no outline of the walls, no sense of direction, no exit. The silence is so heavy it presses against your ears. You have one thing in your hand, a torch. It burns bright and hungry, eating oxygen. It heats the air. It stings your skin. Your first instinct is to drop it because you were trained to believe fire is dangerous. You were trained to believe that being too bright is inappropriate, that wanting more is arrogant, that ambition is an ego problem. But here's the twist. If you put that torch out, the darkness doesn't become peaceful. It becomes total. You don't become enlightened. You become invisible. That torch is your ego. And right now, whether you admit it or not, you're fighting it in a war you cannot win. From childhood, most of us receive the same command in different packaging. Be humble. Don't stand out. Don't think you're special. We're told, your I is the problem. Erase your desires. Society repeats it. Culture repeats it. Even pop psychology repeats it. And what's the result? It isn't spiritual purity. The result is compliance. You become a person who constantly apologizes for existing. A person who avoids conflict at any cost. You become background noise in other people's lives. Let's just say it plainly. If you remove the ego completely, what remains is not wisdom. What remains is emptiness, unagreeable shadow, a ghost that walks through life without leaving a trace. Is that truly the goal? And let's get into the biological reality that no one wants to say out loud. Your brain is not a poetry machine. It's not designed to create a saint. It is an ancient survival mechanism, shaped by millions of years of evolution. At the very center of that mechanism is a brutal, non-negotiable imperative. I exist. I matter. That is the ego's root function, to maintain the structure of yourself. When you try to suppress that fundamental voice, you're not becoming pure, you're starting a civil war inside your own nervous system. Think about it. That morning anxiety you feel, that pressure in your chest, that subtle rage that seems to come from nowhere. A lot of the time, it's not just stress. It's your ego locked in the basement of your subconscious, pounding on the door, screaming, demanding to be acknowledged. Because an ego that is starved does not become quiet. It becomes hungry. It becomes desperate. And if you don't feed it with real, tangible wins, with progress, with achievement, with self-respect, it will start to feed on your complexes. It will feed on insecurity, based on envy. It will develop an obsession with other people's approval. It will create fantasies of revenge against those who slighted you. This is exactly why the kill the ego advice doesn't liberate people. It just makes them weaker and, frankly, easier to control. It creates a vacuum that gets filled with neurosis, anxiety, and resentment. So let's reframe this entire conversation. The ego is not the enemy. The real problem is not having an ego. The problem is having an ego you don't know how to drive. It's like being given the keys to a high-performance car with no driving lessons. The car isn't the problem. The lack of skill is. Remember that torch. The torch can burn your hand if you hold it wrong, but it can also show you the way out of the darkness. It can illuminate the path, reveal the obstacles, and guide you to the exit. So the goal is not to extinguish it. The goal is to learn how to hold it correctly, because the darkness is not impressed by your humility. The darkness does not reward you for being nice. The darkness respects one thing and one thing only: presence, power, the will to occupy your space. And that presence begins the moment you stop apologizing for your own existence. So, if you've spent your whole life trying to be smaller, softer, easier for everyone else to handle, ask yourself one brutal question: who benefited from your self-erasure? Because I promise you, it was never you. Thanks for watching. If this resonated, you know what to do. Stick around, because we're just getting started. Let's get real about modern relationships. They aren't romantic movies. They're negotiation arenas, and often brutal ones. In that arena, one rule dominates. The person who knows their value sets the rules. Most people lose, not because they lack beauty, intelligence, or kindness, but because they try to earn love by shrinking themselves. Here's the mistake that absolutely destroys attraction. You believe that if you demand less, you'll be easier to love. So you reduce yourself. You tolerate disrespect. You laugh at things that actually hurt you. You accept almost instead of real. You trade your truth for a fragile sense of peace. You remove your boundaries just to avoid a conflict. But attraction doesn't grow in the vacuum of self-erasure. Attraction is a response to force. Not force as in aggression, but force like gravity. When you walk into a room apologizing for your own existence, people feel it. They might not say it out loud, but they register it instantly. This person doesn't value themselves. And guess what? The world simply follows your signal. A healthy ego doesn't need to shout. It doesn't beg for attention. It simply refuses to negotiate its own existence. Imagine someone who knows exactly what they want. They don't scream, they don't insult, but their very presence fills the space. That's your frame. You aren't searching for approval from others. You are offering them a world. People can choose to enter it, or they can stay outside. That's real confidence. It's not arrogance. It's not a performance, it's the quiet certainty that you are not a charity case waiting for a handout. Think of boundaries as the architecture of your ego. Boundaries aren't about being cruel. They're about creating structure. Without boundaries, you become like a public building with no doors. Anyone can enter. Anyone can take whatever they want. Anyone can leave damage behind. You might even call it love. But here's the truth. Manipulators hate a strong ego. Why? Because they can't bend it. A strong ego forces clarity. It defines what is acceptable and what is not. It establishes what you will tolerate and what you will never tolerate again. And that clarity creates respect even from people who don't necessarily like you. Now, let's talk about why being nice so often fails. A lot of people aren't truly peaceful. They're just harmless. They don't avoid aggression because they're wise. They avoid it because they have no access to their own power. So they smile, they nod, they swallow their anger, and they call it maturity. But that anger doesn't just disappear. It mutates. It becomes passive aggression, sarcasm, self-destruction, quiet resentment, and emotional sabotage. A disciplined ego doesn't eliminate aggression, it channels. It's the difference between a wildfire raging out of control and a precisely controlled blade. Think about a surgeon for a moment. To cut someone open with a scalpel requires a certain cold certainty, a belief that I have the right to intervene here. That's not sadism, it's precision. That same controlled steel is necessary in your life, in negotiations, in business, in defending your boundaries, in protecting your family, and in ending toxic dynamics without feeling guilty. The formula is simple and, frankly, ruthless. I can be dangerous, but I choose peace. If you are incapable of aggression, you are not peaceful. You are harmless. And harmless people are very rarely respected. So stop trying to be holy. Stop trying to be neutral. A healthy ego is not a sin. It is the very structure that allows love, respect, and real intimacy to exist. Because without it, you don't relate to others as a person. You relate as a sacrifice. And that's a game you'll always lose. Thanks for watching. Why do you quit halfway? Why does procrastination always seem to win, even when you desperately want the result? It's because you, Dan T., have a personal reason strong enough to actually move your body. You're trying to operate on abstract ideas. You tell yourself you should do it. You'll get to it someday. Or you're doing it because other people expect you to. But here's the problem. Your brain doesn't run on abstract morality. It runs on hunger. It runs on a raw, primal need to survive and win. And this brings us to a truth most people in the self-improvement world try to avoid. It's the concept of achievement fuel. Your ego is a dopamine addict. It craves progress. It craves recognition. It wants status. It demands proof that it is winning. You can sit there and pretend you don't care about these things. You can try to be above it all, to spiritually bypass this fundamental part of your nature. But if you don't consciously use this mechanism, I guarantee you, it will use you. Let's be blunt. Most of the great buildings, the groundbreaking discoveries, the most daring and successful businesses, they were not built by people who were ashamed of wanting to win. They were built by people with a fire burning inside them. People who wanted to look out at the world and say, watch me. You can dislike this reality. You can find it morally messy or unsophisticated. But reality doesn't care what you find elegant. It operates on its own terms. So, it's time to stop being ashamed of wanting more. Wanting to be better is not evil. Competition is not some unnatural, corrupting force. The desire to be first, to be the best, to conquer a challenge, this is not a character defect. It is raw life force. It's the same energy that pushes a seed through concrete. The mistake isn't having ambition. The mistake is pretending you don't have it. When you do that, your ambition doesn't just disappear. It leaks out sideways. It shows up as insecurity, as envy of others who are succeeding, as fake performative actions designed to get a quick hit of validation. This is why we have to draw a clear line between two very different types of ego. First, there's the unconscious ego. Think of it as a hysterical child, constantly demanding attention. This is where you find jealousy, getting offended at every little thing, endless social media posturing, and a fragile identity that completely collapses under the slightest criticism. It's weak, reactive, and always a victim. Then there's the instrumental ego. This is completely different. This is cold steel. It's a disciplined, powerful tool that you consciously use to build character, to forge strength, and to achieve your goals. It's not reactive. It's proactive. It's not a master. It's a servant. So here is the controversial, practical strategy. If you want to build new habits, you must tie them directly to your ego. Forget going to the gym just to be healthy. That's too vague, too distant. Instead, go to the gym so that when you look in the mirror, you see power, not weakness. Go so you can feel the undeniable proof of your own discipline. Make your pride the ignition switch for your new routine. Look, early discipline needs a powerful fuel source. It's hard work. Motivation will fail you, but vanity is high-octane fuel. It will get you out of bed on a cold morning when being healthy won't. So let it burn. Let it be a little angry. Let it want to prove something to yourself or to someone else. Use that heat, that intense energy, to forge the steel of your daily routine. What happens later? Later, when the discipline becomes real, when it's an ingrained part of who you are, the vanity naturally becomes less important. The action itself becomes the reward. The identity of being a disciplined person takes over. But at the beginning, don't be afraid to use the raw, messy, powerful fuel of your ego. Now, let's go deeper. Let's talk about the shadow, about hunger, and about the beast on a chain. Inside every single one of us, there is a beast. This is your appetite. It's your appetite for life, for money, for influence, for victory. It's the raw, untamed part of you that wants to conquer and consume. Pretending this beast doesn't exist doesn't make you pure. It just makes you unstable and weak. This beast will either become your engine or it will become your saboteur. There is no third option. So the move isn't to try and kill it, to starve it into submission. That's a fool's errand. The move is to wake it up, acknowledge it, and then chain it to discipline. And I don't mean a chain of shame or guilt. I mean a chain of structure, a chain of purpose. You give the beast a job to do. You point it at your goals and you let it run. Because, frankly, the world does not need another person who is politely afraid of their own shadow. It needs someone real, someone strong, hungry, and fully awake. So let's reframe this entire concept. Your ego is not an enemy that you need to murder in some spiritual battle. Your ego is a horse. If you never learn to ride it, it will throw you off again and again. If you starve it and neglect it, it will become wild and feral, kicking down everything you try to build. If you feed it nothing but fantasies and empty praise, it will turn into a fragile, preening arrogance that shatters at the first sign of trouble. But if you train it, if you feed it real achievements, discipline it with structure, and guide it with a clear purpose, becomes your vehicle. It will carry you farther and faster than you could ever go on your own 2 feet. And when you finally stop apologizing for your ambition, when you stop pretending you don't want to win, everything in your life sharpens. Your communication becomes direct and clear, because you're not trying to hide your intentions. Manipulators and energy vampires fall away, because they can't get a grip on your solid frame. Your goals get bigger, because you're no longer afraid of your own power. Your standards for yourself and for others rise dramatically, and your very presence becomes magnetic. Why? Because people who are lost in the darkness of their own uncertainty are instinctively drawn to the one who holds a torch, the one who is not afraid to burn a little, the one who is not afraid of their own inner fire. So, I want you to check your goals right now. Are they truly yours? Are they big, scary, and exciting? Or are they safe, polite compromises designed to keep the beast asleep and the neighbors happy? It's time to wake it up. Put it on a chain of discipline, but never, ever starve it. Give it real work to do. Give it real mountains to climb. Ride forward. Thanks for watching. If you're still here, still watching my videos, I just want to say something simple. Thank you. In this world of endless noise and constant distractions, the fact that you choose to spend your time here with me means more than you can possibly imagine. It means you're one of those rare people who wants to go deeper, who wants to question things, and who looks for answers inside yourself, not just on the surface. I am honestly so happy that there are people like you who share these interests, these questions, and this search for meaning. So, if you feel like this space resonates with you, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and maybe share this video with someone you know who might need it. Your support helps this content reach more people who are also quietly searching. Thank you for being here, really.